Good morning. Today is Sunday, June 9th, 2024. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. And thank the courageous soldiers of the IDF and everyone else who was involved in the incredible rescue yesterday of 4 hostages who had been held since October 7th in Gaza. They're home. They're reunited with their families. Sivan Rahav Meir said, remember this moment. Don't get used to it. Don't take it for granted. Cherish well these clear moments. This is our real self, she said. A news account of the mission included the detail that when the hostages were finally taken out of the houses where they were being held, the officers shielded the hostages' bodies with their own bodies to protect them. And tragically, that caused the life of one of the officers. Commander Arnon Zamora was killed in that operation, saving the lives of the hostages. He has a wife and 2 children. And he is certainly a hero. We offer our deepest condolences to his family and also to the families of all the hostages who are still there. Our hearts are with them and with you. And we hope that God will continue to bring success to missions, to diplomacy, whatever it will take to bring them home as soon as possible. Throughout my career, I have been interested in Ethiopian Jews, helping them, being concerned with their welfare in Ethiopia, and concerned for and active in their integration both here and in Israel. I've tried to be welcoming and respectful, and I am intrigued by their practices and inspired by their commitment to God and the Jewish people in the face of great challenges, even now, even in Israel. One of the major issues for authorities in Jewish law and for Ethiopian Jews is whether they require conversion to Judaism in order to be accepted as Jews. That is a complex and painful topic I do not wish to address today. Instead, allow me to share a different, extraordinary story, and part of this story also relates to the subject of conversion. And I do so as one of over 110 Jewish communities around the world are focused this weekend, the weekend before Shavuos, on the strength and inspiration we receive from those who choose to become Jewish, following the righteous footsteps of our matriarch Ruth, whose story we read on Shavuos, and whose story is deeply intertwined with our celebration of receiving the Torah at Sinai. So I want to introduce you this morning to Dr. Marva Shalev Marom. She was born and raised in Jerusalem. She's a young woman. And for over 10 years, she has dedicated herself to understanding and helping Ethiopian Jews. And what I want to share with you is excerpts from an interview that Daniel Gordis did with Marva Marom. I want to be clear that this is what I'm going to share is one theme. The interview is longer and it covers more topics. It's more complex. It's more nuanced. And I'll be happy to send you the link to this interview if you like. I just want to focus on one theme that's developed in this interview. So the first thing that Gordis says is that every day in the Israeli newspapers there are the photos, if there are that day, of those Israeli soldiers who have fallen in battle And the number of Ethiopian Jews, Jews of Ethiopian descent, who are among those, they are overrepresented among those who have fallen of the IDF. And Marom says it's a tragic side, and also it's part of what this ancient community perceives as their Jewish destiny. One of the greatest religious leaders of this community said that like a drop returns to the ocean, we will return to Jerusalem. And obviously to do whatever is necessary to make that happen for all Jews. Their bravery and heroism is incredible. And she says, so just imagine families uprooted in their homeland in Ethiopia, basically with everything they have on their backs. They arrive from their village to the Israeli embassy in Gondar in Ethiopia, and there they're told to wait. For how long? A week? 2 months? 3 months? Sometimes even years. She says there's an expression we use in Israel. It's called Zman Ethiopia, Ethiopian time. It's not such a nice thing to say, but listen to what she says about it. It means that sometimes you schedule something with someone, and then they come a few hours later because they don't really have the same mind frame of what time is. But actually, she says, I think that the Ethiopian time is something that this community experienced while in Ethiopia, waiting for Aliyah to Israel, often years, some even decades before they were able to come. So Gordis asked the following question, which is really the heart of this, what I want to share with you this morning. What can they teach us? What could we learn from them? What does the Ethiopian tradition have to teach us at this fraught moment about how to survive? And Marom says, Ethiopian tradition is first of all based on respect. Respect for elders mostly. When you see your father or your grandfather, you kiss their knees. If they ask you to do something to perform a duty for them, that respect comes first. I think that in terms of the honor that people get just for being who they are without proving anything, that deep respect is something that we all need. And another thing is the wholeness of the community and the family. In anthropology, we talk about the Ethiopian family as one of the most resilient structures we know on earth, because it's an organization that can receive more and more and more people without breaking. They are able to share. They're able to survive as a community. Think what makes a community with grandparents and little babies and toddlers walk through the desert in Ethiopia for months and survive. I think that kind of determination and being goal-centered and seeing the community as the whole, in many ways, she's speaking as an Ashkenazi Jew in Jerusalem, we developed as Am HaSefer, the people of the book. But Ethiopian Jews developed as the people with conduct among others that is resilient and selfless. There is a derech eretz, a way of being a community and being a society and have a unity that surpasses the differences between people. We have a lot to learn from them in that sense. And in many ways, she said, a really core fact of Ethiopian Judaism is Jerusalem. Many of them are named Yerush. It's a girl's name. I know a woman here in Montreal whose name is Yerushalayim. But Yerush, it's a girl's name and it means Jerusalem. And the passion and the longing for Judaism, for Jerusalem as the holiest place and the true place of belonging, that is what kept this community whole and strong, living with a sense of mission. So then Gordis says something, and we have referred to this in different ways over these last months, and it's so important. He says, over the months, we see in the radio, Israeli radio, TV, in the newspapers, that when the time comes for soldiers to be released from Gaza, so they come back, they come out of Gaza, and they've been there, and they've been together, let's say in a tank, and they could have been there for a month or two or longer, and they come back. And in this group of guys, men and women, there's a religious guy from the settlements, and there's a secular guy from Tel Aviv, and there's an Ethiopian guy, and there's a gay guy, and they're all in a tank. And their fates are sealed together. What happens is going to happen to all. And they're all coming out of Gaza, as Gaza was being demobilized somewhat. And they're saying, we cannot go back to what we had between January and September of 2023. That's done. That's past. We cannot live like that anymore. The rancor and the arguing, almost the violence between Jew and Jew, Israeli and Israeli. We cannot go back. We're not going back to that. And that is just fantastic. The effect, hopefully, that it will have on the rest of society. That these soldiers have learned, being together, their lives in danger in a tank, for example, and then coming back and saying, we're not going back to the mistakes and to the faults we had in the past. It makes Israel and the Jewish people better and stronger. But then Marom says something very important. She says the greater lesson we have to learn from them is also in terms of the Jewish ethnicity, how wide it actually is, and also in terms of the variety of the religious and civil preference and tradition to be Jews. And that opens us up and makes us richer and more accepting and more embracing of different modes of Jewishness. And less sure of ourselves that our way is the only way, the better way, the right way. She says, Israeliness used to be about exclusivity. I'm an Israeli, but you're not. I am Haredi, but you're not. I'm secular, but you're not. I am Dati, and you're not. All these different groups. But what we're learning, especially from Ethiopian Jews, is that being Israeli is about inclusivity. Those four people in the tank that could agree on nothing, and yet they are still in the tank together, and their lives are intertwined, and our lives are intertwined. I think we are now at the point of seeing inclusivity as the new pathway to Israeliness, what it means to be an Israeli, what it means to be a Jew, rather than exclusivity. And the war in Gaza is part of that. In other parts, and the Ethiopian Jews are a part of that. There are these various forces coming together to redefine what it means to be Israeli, what it means to be Jewish, and to see it in inclusive terms, as opposed to the exclusivity we experienced so harmfully before October 7th. And Gordis says, that would render a very, very different Israel. And Marom says, hopefully. Yes, hopefully. Especially as we approach the event, the revelation at Sinai, that created our identity in all of its flavors and varieties and modes of expression. Hopefully, each individual and each group who seeks to be part of the Jewish people will likewise teach the rest of us. So we are all better because of each other. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.